Namaste everyone. Happy morning and warm cordial welcome to all to this workshop on mushroom cultivation organized by Department of Biotechnology. I'm Dr. Pratibha K, Coordinator, Department of Biotechnology and NSS Program Officer. It gives me great and immense pleasure to welcome you to this workshop on mushroom cultivation. Today, I'm deeply honored to see you all here. Dear students, we have amongst us our Dr. Varun Amingad, Assistant Director of Horticulture from Biocenter, Department of Horticulture, Government of Karnataka, Hulimavu, Bengaluru. I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Varun Amingad for accepting our invitation. Thank you for gracing this moment, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
We always keep coming to you with wonderful opportunity. I'm really glad to introduce today's invited guest speaker. We have amongst us Dr. Varun Amingad, sir. Sir has completed his BSc Horticulture from University of Agricultural Science, Dharwad, and MSc at GKVK University of Agricultural Science, Bengaluru. He finished his PhD in Horticulture from University of Horticultural Science, Bagalkot. Sir has published 5 research papers. Dr. Varun Amingad is presently working as Assistant Director of Horticulture in Mushroom Culture Laboratory, Biotechnology Lab Center, Pulimavu. The sole aim of today's workshop on mushroom cultivation is to promote skill development program. Mushrooms are highly nutritious, valued for taste and aroma, and also easy to cook with excellent quality. With this brief note, I present before you Dr. Varun Amingad to take over workshop on mushroom cultivation. Over to you, sir. Sir, you can share the screen now.
Yes, ma'am. Is it visible to you? Screen. Is the screen visible now?
Yeah. It's visible, sir. You can start.
Good morning, one and all. I thank the Institute KLE SPJ College for inviting me to speak on mushroom cultivation. So all of you might have heard about mushrooms, but there is a lot of there is a large world of mushrooms. So today I am here to throw some light on the various types of mushrooms which are available in nature. And first of all, I will start with the health benefits, and after that I will speak regarding mushroom cultivations of some basic mushroom species which are commonly available in the market. So firstly, mushroom is nothing but a fungi. It is a fruiting body of a fungi. All of you might be very well aware. So fungi, they are part of plant kingdom, but now earlier they were part of plant kingdom, but now there is a separate kingdom for fungi because there are many species in the fungal kingdom. So scientists all over the world they, they thought that it's better to have a separate kingdom for fungi because it has a lot of role in the nature as well as in human life. So students, you all might be very well aware that fungi is made up of nothing but mycelium, thin strands of mycelium, which are chains of cells, single cells. So after they turn into multicellular things, it is called as mycelium. And fungi cannot manufacture their own food. So even this also you are very well aware. So just they don't have a photosynthetic mechanism. Neither do they just like us, they don't directly consume any food. So what they do is they secrete some enzymes on the. For example, if a fungi is living on wooden substrate. So those secrete some enzymes which decompose the wood. So after the enzyme, after the decomposition, when the complex molecules are broken down into simpler molecules, the fungi absorb those simpler molecules. So most probably it will be carbon and also it comprises of nitrogen and some minerals. Fungi reproduce by means of spores. So as so plants reproduce by means of seeds. So fungi reproduce by means of spores. So what are mushrooms? Mushrooms are, I told you earlier, they are nothing but fungi. But in fungi there are two kinds of fungi. One are macrofungi, microfungi. So macrofungi are the fungi which have protein bodies which are easily visible by our naked eye. So there are many species of fungi which have microfungi. So you cannot easily view the fruiting body through your naked eye. You need a aid, just like a lens or even a microscope. So mushrooms are macrofungi. The fruiting body, what you see in the market, so they are nothing but the fruiting body of the fungi. So what happens is, in some cases, most of the macrofungi, or in short, mushroom, they are edible. In most of the cases, they are non-edible. Some mushrooms are poisonous, and there are some which are medicinal. Even though they are poisonous, they will be having medicinal value. And I will let you know one more. There are some fungi which are hypogeous in nature. Hypogeous in the sense the fruiting body is inside the ground. Like, for example, you may be aware of potato or carrot. So these are nothing but the food stored in the roots in the form of roots. So similarly, there are some fungi which give fruiting bodies inside the ground. So it is not easily available. We cannot make it out where the mushroom is. So there is a trend in USA and in some European countries. They train the dogs. They train the dogs to snip the hypogeous fruiting bodies of this mushroom, and they harvest it. And it is a very prized delicacy. So one of the example is a truffle mushroom. So it is a very prized delicacy in European and North American markets. And most of the fungi are epigeous. Epi in the sense you might be knowing above. So epigeous fruiting body. These are the things. These are the mushrooms which you normally uh, come across in the markets. Or normally, if you go to a highly wooded area where there is high moisture, so you can see them floating in the woods or in the uh, grasslands, etc. etc. And most of the fungi also vary on their texture when you consume them. There's a variation in texture. There may be a fleshy or non-fleshy. And you will be well aware that most of the fungi are saprophytes. That is, they depend on dead and dead and decaying organic matter. And there are many fungi which are mycorrhizal, because in the sense which have a symbiotic sense of relationship between a tree species and a fungal species. So this is give and take policy kind of thing. And there are some fungi which are parasitic. So these fungi, I mean, these mushrooms, it is like a one side affair. So where the mushroom derives the nutrients from a host, but the tree in turn doesn't get anything from the mushroom. So of late there has been a lot of hype, lot of demand, and lot of curiosity with respect to mushroom, because mushrooms provide adequate nutrition and health through the consumption, as well as you can also produce a lot of nutraceuticals. And moreover, there's another thing that they decrease environmental deterioration. A short example I would like to know. So most of the mushroom, their food, their diet consists of cellulose and lignin. So anything which is rich in lignin and cellulose, and that's a very good food source of mushroom. So farm waste, what we tell, or agriculture residue is very rich source of cellulose and lignin. So cellulose are basic building blocks in, it is a component of cell which gives the strength to the plant cell, and even lignin. So whatever is the soft part, it is made mostly comprised of cellulose. And when the aging happens. I mean, the trunk, the bark, it is mostly composed of lignin. Even coconut and areca nut, coir, the fibers, all these are made of lignin. So these are the things. The cellulose waste after you harvest, for example, if you harvest rice, I mean paddy, which is later converted and processed into rice, the I mean the hay part is most of the part is fed as animal feed to the cattle, but in most of the cases it is generally left over. So these these are the things, I mean, you can use for mushroom cultivation. And later when the mushroom is cultivated, the hay is later broken down into simpler molecules so that you can again use it in your farm or agriculture land. So it will be a very good manure. I will come to this part later. And moreover, one more thing is the advantage, as I can tell you, is mushroom is a strictly indoor crop. So it does not require any cultivable land. So in most of the cases, in agriculture terms, we tell there is a word called arable land. Arable land is any land which is fit for cultivation of commercial crops, be it any crop, cotton, tomato, even cashew nut. So in this case, mushroom is an indoor crop, so you don't need to have cultivable land. You can grow it in urban areas, you can grow it in rural areas, you can grow it in areas where there is water scarcity, or you can grow it in areas where there is very heavy rainfall. So being an indoor crop, it is undisturbed in most, I mean, majorly undisturbed by the vagaries of nature. And one more thing is, as I mentioned you, it is an indoor crop. So it is a very women-friendly technology also. So there are many home keepers, I mean the housewives, they can they can manage the course in their homes, and aside they can also manage the cultivation of mushroom uh, for their homes scale as well as the uh, in a small way where it can earn them a decent income. And in some cases, if you're cultivating different home scale, there is a lot of scope for you to upscale to industrial or community mode. Community mode in the sense you can bring in a lot of people together of similar wavelengths, and so as a community there will be economic improvement. So mushrooms are very famous nowadays because of the vast arrays of nutrition and health benefits they provide. So they protect you from infection arising due to diabetics. So diabetics are usually prone to different sorts of infection. They help you lower cholesterol in your body, and mushroom especially because of the mushrooms have very good cancer fighting abilities. If you consume mushroom as a part of your diet, so over a period of time you will over a period of time you will develop anti-cancer properties, fighting agents in your body, and it also improves bone health because mushroom is a good source of calcium and even vitamin D. So I would like to stress that mushrooms are a good source of vitamin D because most of us, of course, sunlight is a very good source of vitamin D. But what happens is in the present scenario, most of us work, we will have a desk job, so we won't be exposed to the sunlight during our day-to-day schedule. So mushrooms are good source of vitamin D too. That's a vegetarian vitamin D form. So over period regular consumption, you can manage. You can see that your vitamin D levels in your body doesn't drop below critical levels. And mushrooms also boost our immune system, so fighting capabilities. So be it virus, as you are aware that now the world is fighting the new virus, that is the corona COVID-19 virus. But mushrooms in general, they are a very good immune booster. Rather than immune boosting, we rather tell it as immune modulating food because your immune system should be not too activated or in not too dull form. It should know when to step up and should know when to step down or relax. So mushrooms are very good source of immunomodulating. Mushrooms are very good immunomodulating properties. And one more thing is mushrooms are a very good source of regulating your blood pressure because mushroom has low sodium and with high potassium. So This is very good ratio. Any food which you consume, it should preferably the ratio of sodium should be low, the ratio of potassium should be high. Because if sodium increases in your body, it constricts your blood vessels. So ultimately, it puts pressure on your heart to pump the blood. But if there is low sodium and a bit of high potassium, then your your blood vessel will expand. We call it as vasodilation. You might be knowing that vasodilation is nothing but vascular system, and dilation is nothing but expansion. So ultimately, your heart will be under less pressure. One more thing is it stimulates iron absorption. So, for example, if you consume any food which is rich in iron, uh, I'll give you an example. For example, meat is a very good source of iron. I will consume meat to an extent that my body will get 100 grams of iron. But ultimately, my body will be able to absorb only 25 grams of iron from the food. So, rest 75 grams will be rejected. I mean, it won't be absorbed. Similarly, if you all might be very well aware that leafy vegetables are very good source of iron. So similarly, if I consume leafy vegetable to an extent that I get 100 grams of iron, but my body will be able to absorb only 5 grams. So this is known as the absorption capacity. It is average, I am telling. So mushrooms are what the mushrooms will do is when you consume mushroom along with the leafy vegetable, then the whatever iron is not absorbed, a bit of that iron also gets absorbed due to the virtue of mushroom. And similarly, if I consume mushroom to an extent, I get 100 grams of iron, my body will ultimately be able to absorb 17 grams of mushroom. I'm sorry, iron. And it also helps in weight loss because it is a food which is less in fat and it is having less cholesterol. So it also helps for those who are keeping the tab on their weight. And apart from this, the very good thing is that mushrooms are very good source of proteins. So very next after any non-vegetarian food, especially red meat, white meat, and fishes, the next rich source of proteins are mushrooms. Also, you can get proteins from pulses, but mushrooms are a very good source of vast. There are many types of amino acids, so you can get the vast types of proteins from the mushroom consumption, and they are very good source of fiber. So fibers are very good for your intestine and digestive system. And as I mentioned, they are low in sodium, they are low in fat. So whatever our body doesn't like, so mushrooms are having those things in lesser quantity. And they are also good source of some minerals like selenium. Selenium is a very good antioxidant. Potassium I have mentioned. So iron is also very good. I have already mentioned. And copper is very good for your bone health and also for your nervous system. And the very good another very good aspect of mushroom is they very good source of vitamins, especially vitamin B complex. So whatever vitamins K, I mean B12, global one, B12, so vitamin B5. So they are very good source of vitamin B complex. So vitamin D. So most of the mushrooms are have a bit less quantity of vitamin A and C. So in that case, you can you can have mushrooms along with some food which is rich in A, like vitamin A, like carrot or leafy vegetables, and some which are good in vitamin C, like cabbages, tomatoes, broccoli, etc., etc. So I have spoken about the proteins, and I told you amino acids. So the quality and quantity of essential amino acids. Vitamins also I have stressed upon, and the another thing I would like to mention is it is good source of folic acid. So folic acid is very important for expectant mothers and lactating mothers. And the fourth one that is I mentioned, it is a rich source of vitamin D. Apart from that, you also get to have many bioactive compounds. So there is a mushroom called shiitake mushroom. So in that you can find a bioactive compound lanthanum. In another mushroom that is the oyster mushroom. You can find lovastatin. So lovastatins are very good blood pressure modulators. So in white button mushroom, so by many of you might have come across white button mushroom. So you can find pectins. So reishi is a medicinal mushroom which is widely popular in China. So you can find beta glucans in the reishi. Another important thing is mushrooms are gluten free. So there are many in the population. You can find some set of people who are sensitive to gluten or intolerant. So those people they should avoid some foods which are made of wheat. So for them it's a very safe alternative to gain carbohydrates and proteins. And as I mentioned earlier, it is a protein. You like to term mushrooms as protein from waste. Why? Because mushroom is a very good source of protein. And why I have added the word waste is any agricultural residue which is rich in cellulose, you can very happily use it for mushroom cultivation. And one more point I would like to mention is you might be aware of coir fiber, which take years to decompose. If you visit any coconut or arecanut plantations, you can see that the fibers and all they take years and months to decompose. There is a species called Proteus sajarkaju, so which will decompose it, finish it off in just 2 to 3 months. And apart from all the benefits here, if anyone is looking for a business kind of opportunity or having a bit of financial bit of mind, so for them it is a way of creating employment to themselves and for others too. I would like to throw some light upon the myths in mushroom, in the whole as a mushrooms, whatever is there prevalent in the society. So, so this is a tomato. On the slide, you can see a tomato.
Sir,
Tomato
I
fruits.
request you to bit louder. Bit
Sure,
louder,
sure.
please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is a tomato plant, but this is a wild tomato, and this is not fit for your consumption. On the other hand, this is the domesticated tomato, so which is there over a period of time due to evolution and breeding. So this is the hybrid tomato which you find in the markets nowadays. So I would like to inform you that the earlier picture in the left one, your left what I told is it is poisonous for consumption. But we are all well aware that given a choice between these two, we would choose the right one, that is the second image. So we are all well aware of the. I mean, we have clarity which tomato to choose, but in terms of mushroom, we don't have that much background information or knowledge or clarity. So whenever if you go to the wild or if you come across anyone who is selling mushroom, you be clear that which species it is. If uh, you are not clear with the species or not clear with the identification, it's better to avoid consuming it. And similarly, there is a lot of talk in the society that mushrooms are not grown in a clean place. But this, I can show you that this is how leafy vegetables especially are washed and cleaned in the before it arrives to the market. So, but mushroom on the other hand, it is grown in a cleaner environment because if you don't maintain cleanliness in the mushroom farm, it is very high chance that you would get contamination uh, of the in the farm, so which will hamper your mushroom output. So that is why farmers and mushroom growers they take high precaution that they keep the mushroom farm clean. And there is no clear or thumb rule that edible and poisonous mushroom should be like this. And there is no thumb rule. As I told you, as I mentioned you should be very well aware and you should be very clear of the species. There are some myths that white mushrooms are non-poisonous. It is not like that. Some of the very poisonous mushrooms are white in color. Some people say that if animals can consume the mushroom, even we can consume. So it is also the other way because animals have a different digestive system. We cannot eat the same mushroom which they eat. And some people also say that if it is growing on wood, it is clean, it is safe to eat. No, that's not the way. And even if there's a very good spread of lawn, and you can find some mushrooms growing in the lawn and the meadows. So even that, without any identification, you cannot consume it. So these are all the edible mushrooms. Few select which I have put here for your reference. So this is the asparagus. That is it looks like the first one. It looks like a cauliflower. It's known as the cauliflower mushroom. The truffles, as I showed you, that hypogeus, which is found in the ground, that's the truffles mushroom. The pink oyster, the oysters are a wide range of mushrooms. You can find many colors in that: white, gray, yellow, pink. The butter mushroom, you are all very well aware of that. The yellow oysters, the shiitake, the brown one. So shiitake is now the leading mushroom in the world. So it is the most consumed mushroom, most produced mushroom in the world due to its very good taste, aroma, as well as excellent cancer fighting abilities. The juice here, it's wood loving mushroom, so that juice here also is very good mushroom for taste and all. And even you have the cordyceps. Cordyceps is a rare mushroom, so you can find it. You can get it in the market, not here. You should go to countries like Tibet, Nepal, or Bhutan, even India, in states of Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Jammu Kashmir. The price of this mushroom is 1 to 1.5 lakh for a kilo. So I can tell you, you can get mushrooms for not even a penny, or some of the very costliest food in the world are mushroom. And this is the lion's mane, so it resembles the lion's head, the mushroom fruiting body. And the last one is the morels. So these are the diversity. I want to show you how the shape, diversity in form, diversity in color, diversity in taste, diversity in prices also. So you will be having, if you come across some literature. So presently, uh, reported there are 15,000 reports of microfungi, which is the mushroom. Of those, 5,000 have varying degrees of edibility, 2,000 are prime edible, and prime edible is acceptable flavor and taste. So 100 are experimentally grown, 50 have economically cultivated, economical in sense. If you invest 1 penny, you are bound to get some profit. So 30 are commercially cultivated, commercial in sense very large scale, and 6 are on industrial scale. That's a very large scale where you have automation and large farms, multiple farms. Just I would like to inform you regarding mushroom anatomy. So basically, if you ask any child what a mushroom looks like, so he or she will definitely tell it resembles the shape of umbrella. So there are many shapes, but this is very common way to express a mushroom. So it will be having a stem, a cap. So the roots. So these are not the roots actually. There is the mycelium. I told you. Cellular threads, the form mycelium. So the mycelium is nothing but the vegetative phase of the mushroom. So caps after maturity, they disperse the spores. So which later, if they find some congenial environment, the spores again they spread their mycelium, they germinate, and again they give rise to mushroom. So some mushroom they will be having scales, some don't have. So the gills are common for mushroom. Some mushroom will be having the annulus, and some will be having. The life cycle of mushroom, I would like to tell you. The fruiting body, it will disperse the spores. After spore dispersal, after finding congenial environment, the spores will germinate. After germination, they will give rise to hyphae and mycelium strands. So the meeting of all such hyphae, uh, they form a mycelial mat, and from the mycelium, there will be some knots which later arise into primordia. Primordia is nothing but the mushroom, the initiation of the mushroom fruiting body. If you happen to see underneath any mushroom you come across, so there will be a vast network of mycelium in the substrate. Substrate in the sense be it wood or any compost or any any place where there is very abundant availability of nutrients, especially carbon and nitrogen. So just chart for a reference. So China is the largest producer of mushroom and even the largest consumer. So in terms of world mushroom trade, so shiitake is, I told you, shiitake is the highest produced mushroom in the world, followed by oyster. So the button mushroom owes only, I mean, it holds only 15% share in total world mushroom production. And in the state of India, sorry, in the Indian nation, Punjab and Haryana account for highest mushroom production. Karnataka, it is not in the top 10. It holds only, it has only 0.9% share in mushroom production. Even there is a lot of demand for production and productivity mushrooms in India. It has been taken up. So, but in Indian scenario, you can see white button comprises of 72% of market share, followed by oyster mushroom. So the trend is slowly changing because there is the arrival of new specialty mushrooms. So, and with increased awareness regarding the other types of mushroom, the trend may likely change in the next decade or so. Crop residue generation, as I told you, agriculture residue, it is on the rise all the time. So I would like to tell you that there is no dearth of crop residue, there is no dearth of cellulose for mushroom cultivation, there is no dearth of lignin for mushroom cultivation. So history-wise, it was first described by Chinese in their ancient texts, but cultivation-wise, there was no any improvements. And later, first mushroom ever cultivated was white button mushroom. It was in France. Later, it extended to their neighboring countries in Europe. And the Europeans bought those cultivation technology when they invaded India, so along with them. So this is how even Indians started cultivating white button mushroom. That is how the awareness of white button has been imprinted in our minds. But we have to look beyond button mushroom. We have to look. There are many kinds of mushroom, different in taste, very high, having very high nutritional value, high nutraceutical value. So it is time we start looking beyond white button mushrooms. So I told you, crop waste, instead of burning the crop waste, you can cultivate mushroom in the crop waste, and the same crop waste after mushroom production, you can use it for the same field. You can use it for organic farming. So temperature wise, especially in Karnataka, so you diverse temperature range, diverse relative humidity range, but anywhere in Karnataka you can grow mushroom. So according to the weather your place has, there is a mushroom for that weather. So with this background, I would like to start the cultivation technology of mushroom. So cultivation technology, I would like to tell you is there are 5 basic steps. So if you take care of the steps, and if you maintain the hygiene and cleanliness, and if you maintain proper environment, so you can come up with very good mushroom crop. So cultivation technology is substrate preparation. Substrate preparation is in the sense the medium on which you grow mushroom. So usually many growers they use paddy straw or the rice hay, what you tell. So that is very commonly used. You can even use ragi, the millet straw also. So whatever after harvesting, whatever dried straw, you should always use well dried straw. It should be preferably golden yellow in color. So that is how you should use. Yeah, I would like to also tell you that you can use. So whenever you student, you all friends, you all go to the sugarcane juice seller to drink sugarcane juice, but you can see the bagasse which is left over. So even on that bagasse also you can grow mushroom, preferably oyster mushroom. So there are some people who have grown mushrooms on coffee, ground coffee powder, which was strained, which has already been strained. You can grow mushroom on tea, strained tea leaves. So these are for hobby and experimental purpose. But if you want to start on a commercial scale, you choose a substrate which is very easily available and available all around the year. So in some places, if you go to the northeastern parts of Karnataka, there paddy is not commonly grown. There they grow tur. So tur substrate also you can use. I have told you earlier also any agriculture residue which is good in cellulose. So most of the residues are good in cellulose, so it can be easily used for mushroom cultivation. So I will start with oyster mushroom cultivation because if you want to start mushroom cultivation, it is good to start with oyster mushroom. This is a learning course for you. So what we have to do is choose a substrate which is well dried. You should cut the substrate into small pieces. After cutting them into small pieces, you should soak the substrate in water, cold water, without any chemicals. You soak the substrate in cold water. So for your reference, I will focus on paddy straw because that's most widely available. So paddy straw can be soaked for 3 to 4 hours minimum. You can soak up to 8 hours, no problem. But you see that you cut it into small pieces, preferably your finger size or 2 to 3 inches for your reference measurement wise. It should be 2 to 3 inches. So why we recommend cutting is it should be easy for you to handle to later fill in the bags. Then you should soak it in water for at least 4 hours. After that, so you're going if you're intended to grow mushroom, so mushroom is a microorganism. So paddy straw is also a rich source of it harbors many other microorganisms. So you should rid the paddy straw any competent microorganisms. So there are many ways to rid the paddy straw microorganisms. So after soaking, what you should do is you should drain the cold water. You can either uh, boil the paddy straw in hot water for at least 45 minutes. Otherwise, you can place it in a steam chamber and then you can steam it for um, at least 1.5 hours. So that way, due to the presence of heat, so hot water and steam are two methods due to the presence of heat, you can get rid of any resident microflora on the paddy straw or any substrate. So we don't recommend chemicals. You can find many chemicals in the market because we don't recommend chemical sterilization or pasteurization because the paddy straw absorbs the chemicals and later when you grow the mushroom on the same paddy straw, the mushroom will definitely absorb the same chemical and later it will come into your diet. So we don't recommend chemical. This is very strictly I would like to tell you that we don't recommend chemical pasteurization. And moreover, when you use chemical pasteurization, you are bound to get lesser yields compared to any heat physical method, that is the hot water or steam. But in some, you can also go for sterilization. So you are all very well aware of autoclaves. So if you are going for large scale cultivation, I would recommend you to follow sterilization of the substrate. So sterilization of substrate is, I told you, you should soak it for 3 to 4 hours. After soaking, you see that you dry the substrate to. So after soaking, the moisture in the substrate will be 85%. Yeah, approximately. So what you should do is you should bring down the moisture to 60 or 65%. So 60 to 65% is the range. So you should bring down the moisture level in the paddy straw. How do you bring down the moisture? Just you spread it thickly on any mesh surface. So or due to sunlight or any action of wind and all. So you can bring down the moisture level to 60 or 65%. So how do you check whether you have achieved 60 to 65% moisture level or not? The test is very simple. You take the paddy straw in your hand, in your fist, and press it tightly. If you see no water is dripping, but no water is dripping through your fist, but your fist remains moist. So this is a very simple test. You are well assured that it is 60 to 65% moisture level. So before, when you achieve 60 to 65% moisture level, you should fill them in the bags. So I will show a picture of that later. So and then after filling in the bags, you tie the polypropylene bag. So if you are using autoclave, you should go for polypropylene bags. So preferable size is 12 by 18 inch and with thickness of 200 kg. So polypropylene bag are heat resistant. So after filling them in the bags, you can sterilize it in the autoclave for 120 degrees 15 psi for 20 minutes. So this way you are well assured of sterility. This is scientific approach, very uh, scientific approach. So you are well assured that it is 99% sterilized, because some bacteria may survive the sterilization, but what we are looking for is to bring down the population of competitor molds and competitor microorganisms. So if you are following hot water pasteurization or steam, so see that after you uh, drain the cold water, after soaking, if you drain the cold water, see that you shift the paddy straw, the moist paddy straw in a in a large container where you have already started boiling water, and in that you see that it gets boiled to at least 45 minutes to 1 hour. So after boiling, you can later uh, allow it to dry, so to bring down the moisture level, maybe in a clean room using a fan. After you bring down the moisture level, you can again later fill in the black bags. So while filling, you are already so pasteurization has already been. So while filling the bag, you can directly fill with the. You can directly inoculate with the spawn also. So stepwise also you can do. But I have a video which will show you how you fill. I mean how you inoculate the autoclave sterilized bags. I have the video for that. I will show you later. So hot water pasteurization, in this concept you can use, but so on the first image you can see the autoclave. Post autoclave, the bags are allowed for cooling. So this is how that this has already been sterilized in the autoclave for 20 minutes. So that's a 1 kg substrate, moist substrate. So she has disinfected her hand with the IPS solvent. So this is the spawn she has. So she has taken the spawn in a measuring cup. So preferably for 1 kg wet substrate, we use 5 to 7% of spawn. So here approximately she is adding, she is inoculating with 60 grams of spawn. So this is how she is not touching the spawn with her hand, neither she is touching the paddy straw. So this is how she is inoculating with the spawn. And after inoculation, please note that the spawn should be spread all over the substrate for faster colonization on the substrate. So that's a very important thing you should do. So later, it is time for closing. And mushrooms are aerobic in nature. Aerobic in the sense they intake oxygen and they exhale carbon dioxide just like us. So we have to give some respiratory uh, vents for them. So some people they follow doing holes on the backs, but we don't recommend because it is a avenue for contaminants to enter. So she's now plugging it with the unabsorbent cotton, and it's better to use a PVC ring as a support. If you don't have a PVC ring, you can even use a rubber band. So the PVC ring and non-absorbent cotton. I can repeat, it is non-absorbent cotton and not absorbent cotton. So this is how the spawning or inoculation with spawn is done. Later you can label. Okay, okay friends. I hope you are clear with the inoculation technique. So that is how you should follow. You shouldn't touch the spawn, nor you should touch the paddy straw hay with your hands, even though it is disinfected with this IPA. So this technique, I would like to show the first image. It is I mean, it was an old method, so that's generally not followed nowadays. So just like how you have vegetables and fruits which prefer a specific temperature range, similarly oyster mushroom also allows a specific temperature range. So usually most oyster species they love temperatures between 20 to 30 degrees Celsius, but optimum, I mean to get good quality mushroom, the optimum temperature range is 23 to 26 degrees. And anything above 28 degrees and below 20 degrees is detrimental for your oyster mushroom production. And relative humidity, I repeat, relative humidity is very important in mushroom cultivation. So relative humidity for most of the mushroom species is 80 to 85%. So these are the many colors you find in oyster mushrooms: the yellows, the pinks, whites, grays. Oyster mushroom is a large, a very large family which comprises many types of mushrooms, different colors, different tastes. So I'd like to I'd like to introduce to another milk mushroom type, that is the milky mushroom. As I told you earlier, it is time we start looking beyond the button mushrooms. There are many kinds of mushrooms. So there is another mushroom, that's the milky mushroom, which is very good source of protein, very good source of um, a bit of vitamin C, and good source of calcium. So here again, the milky mushroom also, the spawning technique is the same, the inoculation technique. Again, the substrate product preparation is also the same. I told you earlier, you take the same paddy straw substrate, chop it into 2 to 3 inches, soak it for 3 to 4 hours, and then if you are following, if you are doing a small scale operation, you can go for hot water pasteurization. If you are doing a large scale, then you dry the substrate to 60% moisture, fill it in polypropylene bags, and autoclave it for 20 minutes. So if you do hot water pasteurization or autoclave, whatever spawn later you use for your crop production, you see that you are using milky mushroom spawn. So you get the spawn at 2 or 3 centers in Bangalore. I will share the address to our organizer. So you don't have any worries regarding availability of spawn. So I told you oyster would love temperatures from 20 to 30 degrees, but milky is so oyster production you can halt when the temperature crosses 28 or 29 degrees, but beyond that you can grow milky mushrooms. So milky mushroom can tolerate temperatures up to 35 degrees. So places in Karnataka where temperatures are regularly are above 30 degrees, they can easily go for milky mushroom cultivation. And humidity spawn running is and there is one more thing is, as now you could see a video where you inoculated oyster mushroom spawn into the substrate. So I would like to I'm sorry I couldn't continue that. After inoculation, you please note it, after inoculation you should place the mushroom back for incubation, the spawn back for incubation. So incubation nothing but you should allow the spawn to spread, colonize the substrate. So incubation time varies from mushroom to mushroom, but for oyster mushroom or for milky mushroom, the incubation period is approximately 25 days. So any time frame from 20 to 30 days is good for incubation, but we recommend minimum 25 days for incubation. So you please note it. Incubation room should be airtight. Airtight in the sense there shouldn't be cross ventilation of air. So when there is no cross ventilation of air, it is bound that there is high buildup of carbon dioxide. So you could note that you could see we have plugged the non-absorbent cotton, so it will allow exchange of air for the spawn. I mean, in general for the mycelium, but when there is high CO2, the colonization rate will be fast. So you want to, because your main objective is to see that you colonize the mycelium, colonize the bag faster, so that you can use it for cropping. So any mushroom, for every mushroom there is a incubation period or the vegetative phase, that is the colonization of mushroom on the mycelium on the substrate. So here in this case the incubation period is 25 days. There are many other words for incubation period. Some people refer it as spawn running period, and some people colloquially, local language, they tell it as dark room. So not necessarily your room should be dark, but see that direct sunlight penetration is there in the rooms where there is incubation happening. So incubation range is 25 days. So here the CO2 should be high, and there should be no relative humidity. Room should be completely dry, just as any room you live. There should be no relative humidity. See that you arrange uh, in clean shelves, on clean shelves, and see that you do observation every day. See that the mycelium is, whether the mycelium coming up well or not. Please observe for contaminants, preferably trichoderma, which trichoderma is very rich on paddy straw. So population is very rich on paddy straw. If you have followed poor pasteurization or sterilization, so you are bound to get trichoderma contamination. So please observe for trichoderma contamination, or lipstick molds. Also you can get some pink spots on the bags, and so you should observe. So if you come across any uh, contaminated bags, it is good that you reject, discard the bags at the first site. And you also come across some black molds, that is probably usually due to Rhizopus and Aspergillus. So these are all the competitor molds we tell for mushroom produce. So they compete for food. So just like when you find any contamination in your microbiology, even culture science, so the first thing you do is you discard. So similarly, even if you want to, on the long run, you should see that if you find any contamination, you discard it on the first site. So after incubation, so please note it that in incubation room, the carbon dioxide should be high. So preferably 8,000 or 9,000 ppm. There is no need to measure, but even if carbon dioxide content crosses 9,000 ppm, that's also dangerous for any mushroom colonization or mycelium development. So preferably if you close all the windows, and for every day once if you visit for observation, that is enough. So there won't be carbon dioxide accumulation beyond 8 or 9,000 ppm. So after 25 days, after incubation, we should shift the bags to the cropping room. So I will tell you one thing: for any mushroom to get into fruiting, to shift from vegetative phase to reproductive phase, there should be a change in environment, change in environmental conditions, or we can, in short, we can tell it environmental shock. So environmental shock is nothing but drastic change in environment, and it should be a sudden change. So you might have observed, right, since from your childhood, you can see mushroom popping here and there after the first or second rains. So that is because of sudden change in the environment. So here also there should be sudden and drastic change in the environment. So we don't recommend incubation room to be as a cropping room. Always there should be a different incubation room in the another cropping room, so that even your the cultivation process shouldn't be, the chain shouldn't be broken down. So after 25 days, you shift the bags to the cropping room. So in cropping room, you allow all, I mean, you open all the windows. So there automatically there will be less carbon dioxide and the normal oxygen percent will be there 18 to 19%, normal whatever you find in the atmosphere. So, so that is what is you tell it as environmental shock is in one way you are interchanging the gas, oxygen and CO2 levels. And one more thing is you increase the relative humidity in this room, in the cropping room or mushroom cropping room. So here, how to increase relative humidity? It is very easy. You moisten the floor and you hang some gunny bags around the, I mean, 1 feet away from the wall, and you spray water on the gunny bags. No, please don't water. I mean, spray water on the mushroom bags. So water also carries some contaminants. So you are not bound to use RO water here. So I know. So you see that you water the gunny bags and the floor with the any tap water you find. So that is enough. It will take care of the relative humidity. It will bring to 80 to 85%. If you are ready to spend some more amount of money, you can go for humidifiers. And if someone who is into, I have seen some people who are into commercial cultivation, they go for misters and foggers. So you can get many foggers and misters for it. So it will cost you to a bit of a few lakhs, but I told you simple and easy method. So gunny bags and moistening the floor. So see that water is not stagnated. See, you clean it every day, because stagnant water also harbors many microorganisms and some pests also. So one more thing is I told you, see that you open the windows and all, but mushrooms, I told you, very good source of proteins. So there are many insects which will be, so it is a mouth-watering proposition for them. So you can see beautiful mushroom popping out from the bags. So insects will be interested to enter your cropping room and I mean, consume the proteins. So that's why very simple technique is that you install a mesh to the windows. So see, so through the insects, I mean the pests and insects, they don't come inside. So and see that you keep the door closed. Whenever you go in, just you for your regular monitoring, you see that you cleanly observe everything and then again close the door back. So if you follow relative good, provide good humidity, avoid insects, and allow good supply of oxygen, so it will be very good. You are bound to get good quality mushroom which you can consume and even uh, share it among your friends and closed circles. So I was speaking about milky mushroom. So the thing is the same. You use milky mushroom spawn. Spawning, I mean, inoculation is also the same as as per the video. After inoculation, 25 days. So 25 days you do it the incubation part. So what happens in oyster mushroom is you should after 25 days when you shift the oyster mushroom uh, mycelium grown bags mycelium the mycelium which has spread all over the paddy straw. So the bag will be white in color. So after the mycelium has covered the whole paddy straw, so you should make space for the mushroom to come out. So use a clean blade when you shift to the cropping room. You should use a clean blade. So I can show you one thing. So here you can see the spawn has been after spawning, the whole bag will be white in color. So that is the mycelium has covered the whole paddy straw. It has absorbed all the food from the paddy straw, the cellulose especially. So after that, you can uh, make 3 or 4 vents on vents. I mean, 5 centimeter slits, vertical slits are enough. So after you make the vertical slits, so you are about to injure the mycelium. So that will also act as a kind of shock. So even the injury is a small kind of shock. So all these environmental shocks, what I told you, the change in oxygen and CO2, yes, and then the increased relative humidity as well as a small injury what you are doing. So all these are some kind of shock which will trigger the mushroom into fruiting. So after you make the vertical slits, within 5 or 6 days, you are get the mushrooms of this quality. So earlier there will be some peanuts, primordial what I told you, and within another 4 or 5 days you can get this kind of. So maximum within 10 days, depending on your relative humidity and oxygen supply, maximum within 8 or 10 days you will get oyster mushroom. So, but in case of milky mushroom, there is a small change because, excuse me, in milky mushroom, you shouldn't, after 25 days, you shouldn't make vertical slits on the polypropylene bags. Instead, you should open the cover and you should add a casing soil, what we tell in our terms, we call it as a casing soil. So what is casing soil? It is nothing, it is just your red garden soil, but it should be mixed in equal proportion with sand. So if you are using 1 kg red soil, you should add 1 kg sand. So you should mix both, and then you should add calcium carbonate also. So it should be preferably 5 to 7%. So 5 to 7% total weight of your casing soil and sand. So if you are using casing soil and sand combined 1 kg, so preferably 70 or 80 grams should be your calcium carbonate or lime. So in place of sand, you can also use coco peat. So in nursery, Bangalore, whatever nursery you get, you will get coco peat as a potting media. Similar coco peat you can use in place of sand. So coco peat 50%, red soil 50%, total weight combined 5% you should use lime. So casing soil, but again casing soil, after you prepare the casing soil, you shouldn't directly fill it on the bags. Again, it should be pasteurized for 80 degrees at minimum 30 minutes. So maximum you can go for 45 minutes pasteurization. So here you shouldn't follow sterilization, because if you sterilize, there will be some beneficial bacteria which will be killed. So we generally recommend only pasteurization. So casing soil after pasteurization, it should be spread to on the bags. When you open the cover, on the bags it will spread, and the thickness of the layer should be 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters. So that is the recommended thickness. So it will be even spread, and daily once you should spray with a light spray of a light mist of water. And the cropping room should be similar to the oyster cultivation room I told you. Same gunny bags for increasing relative humidity, as well as allowing fresh oxygen, fresh air circulation should be there. In some places, especially in Bangalore, there will be much variation. So in those places, we can use exhaust fans. So one side the air comes in, so you can use the exhaust fan for another. If there is a small opening, you can use it to fasten the exchange of air. So you can use exhaust fan. If you have large windows, then there is no use of. There is no need to use exhaust. So after so in case of milky mushroom, when you add a casing soil, so you can see after a few days, you can see mycelium spreading on the casing soil. Yes, you can see the white growth, the thread-like growth. And after another few days, you can find the primordials or the initials we tell. So these are the things. These are the initial. These later form into fruiting bodies. So this is how the development happens. So later we tell it as pinnate stage. So this is after the pinnate stage, you can achieve at the marketable stage of mushroom. This is typically your umbrella shape mushroom. So this mushroom takes a bit longer to develop. So it will take 12 to 15 days. So in case of oyster, you will get the oyster mushroom 5 to 7 or 8 days. But here milky mushroom takes a bit longer. But this mushroom has a good shelf life, so 4 or 5 days you can keep it in refrigeration, without refrigeration. But oyster mushroom, you can keep it for only 1 or 2 days. So this was regarding milky mushroom. So you can see the facts. Please note that the mycelium growth has been the complete colonization has happened. There is a complete white growth on the mycelium. The padistra has been completely covered. So earlier, the earlier slides I was referring earlier during class, I was referring about the hypogeous mushroom, that is the truffle. So you can see earlier they used to hire pigs for um, the sniffing out the truffles. So nowadays they have trained dogs, so dogs are used to sniff out the truffles. So it is a very prized commodity with a truffle orchard in France. So along with other orchards, you can see truffles. So these are the morels. So this is a mycorrhizal type of mushroom. So this is not available. I mean, the cultivation technology is not yet available regarding this. So this is wild, collected from the wild. So again, here I would like to tell is there is a similar mushroom which resembles. There is another mushroom species which resembles this mushroom, and you should take very extra precaution that you differentiate between the true morel and the false morel. As your ma'am was telling earlier, before the inception of this webinar, that it's a very good source of nutrition. So you can use mushrooms on wide array of dishes. You can make um, wide array of recipes using mushroom. You can include in your daily diets. So you can make palaws, you can make biryanis. So you can include mushroom any type of as like any other vegetable. You can make mushroom. So mushroom tea. So I have tasted mushroom tea a few times. So it has a different flavor, distinct mushroom flavor, distinct aroma. So healthy drink. So mushroom chutney powders you can make. So it's not that you can use. You can dry mushrooms in a cabinet dry dryer. So bring the moisture to of the mushroom to 8 to 12%. So it is very amenable for grinding and milling. So you can mix the same mushroom powder with any of your chutney powders. So in some proportions, you can make gravies, curries. So you have like a lot of options. So you might have even found them across pizza stores and all. I mean pizzas whenever you consume mushrooms. So most of them it will be uh, your regular button mushrooms. But when you go to European and American, even China and Japan or other Southeast Asian nations, so they consume different types of mushrooms all over the year, all over the day. So they consume mushroom soups. And I told you about shiitake mushroom. So Japanese they love shiitake mushroom. Uh, so this their staple in having shiitake soup. One of the staple diets. So this is how uh, you can find thousands of dishes all over the world with regard to mushroom. So this was all regarding. Uh, I come to the end of the presentation, but I added a slide regarding the future prospects as a uh, so as you are the students. As I told you until now, you can go for mushroom cultivation, oyster, uh, milky, and there are other types also because due to time constraints we cannot. You, you can come later to our this one, or I can share some. I will leave some information here at your speed, so that won't be an issue. But still, if you there are many other aspects also you can look at. That is the specialty mushrooms I told you. These are mushrooms which are produced in less quantity but similarly have very high value. And moreover, the word special itself is as an indication that it requires a bit of special care. So these are the specialty mushroom, but these are very high value. It will be worth your effort and worth your investment. So you can also nowadays you can also find many nutraceuticals. There are many anti-cancer compounds extracted from the mushroom, and you can also find especially Chinese markets and all. You can find many mushroom-related products. You can how you find Ayurvedic related products in India. So you can find many mushroom related products in Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and other Southeast Asian markets. And you can also make many processed products. I told you mushroom tea. Uh, in Japanese also you can prepare chutney powders. So you have wide options. For future perspective, you can look into the, not only produce fresh mushroom, you can also look after doing any processed products and all. And one more thing I would like to tell is the spent substrate, mushroom substrate. Now I told after you cultivate mushroom, so from each bag you will get three flushes of mushroom. So I told you after 25 days the first flush will be after 7 or 10 days. So by 35th day you will get the first yield from that mushroom bag. And again, after you obtain the field, you make vents and vertical slits on the bags. So again, after that, you will get another flush of field. So you will get 2 to 3 flushes. So by 45 days, you are done with mushroom production. And you have used 1 kg of wet substrate, that's paddy straw substrate, 1 kg. So by the time you get 2 or 3 yields, so you will get from 1 kg substrate, you will get a decent amount of mushroom, that is 250 to 350 grams. So the substrate weight will be around 500 to 600 grams. So whatever it has obtained its carbon and nitrogen, most of the carbon and nitrogen from the substrate. So the weight of substrate will be 600 or 700 or 500 grams. So that substrate is very good source of manure. So that you can use in uh, you can use a pit, a compost pit. I can by 2 months the manure will be ready, or you can directly uh, spread it all over in your farm, or you can add a small bits in your pots also. So mushroom is a very, I would like to highlight this, mushroom is a very, is called as a zero waste crop because you are not generating any waste apart um, from the polypropylene bag. But there are some farms, they instead of polypropylene bag they go for cultivation jars, glass jars. So it requires a bit of careful handling. Otherwise, the glass jars are reusable. After every cultivation, you autoclave the jars once. Again, it is ready for next use. So here again, it is a completely zero waste crop. And one more thing I would like to mention is nowhere in my whole presentation I have recommended use of any chemicals for mushroom cultivation. So you are well assured that uh, whatever mushroom we have produced or grown are free of most of the harmful chemicals. So this is how without chemicals, but the same on the other side, I would like to tell that you cannot label it as organic because again, you are not sure whether the paddy straw, if you procure the organic paddy straw, then of course we can tell it as an organic product. So again here paddy straw is not you are not sure about that. So until and unless you are sure, you can't go for certification. So friends, this was the basics regarding mushroom cultivation. So in short, I would like to uh, tell it as that the very first thing you should take care is the hygiene. And the second thing is by the spawn should be of course of good quality. So if you use contaminated spawn, you are bound to get contamination. So spawn should be of good quality. And one more thing is see that you maintain uh, good good levels of carbon dioxide, that CO2 in the incubation room. See that you don't unnecessarily go in and out often. The cleanliness should be good. And after you come to the after you shift the bags to the cropping room, see that you allow fresh supply of oxygen and see that the rate humidity is well maintained. See that you don't allow the insects which are which will be looking forward to consume to lay eggs and consume the mushroom. And see that you in your mushroom farm, see that any unnecessary visit is not recommended. Only the one who is in charge of the farm should go in and go out because the major carrier of contamination is none other than human beings. So we are the main. So we should see that we enter the farm only when unnecessary visits also are not recommended. And one more thing is, if some in the cropping room, you see that you harvest mushroom. So stage of harvest is very important. So I would like to show a picture where that is a very important aspect. I would like to explain to you a picture. Here you can see that. So oyster mushroom comes in bunches. So in oyster mushroom, you please observe the largest cap of the bunch, one or two largest caps of the bunch, and see that the margin of the cap is curled downwards when you harvest. So over period of time, the curling it starts curling upwards. So if it has started curling upwards, it means that the mushroom, the bunch has started to age. So if it starts curling upwards, it will give rise to dispersal of spores. So spores are white in color, and again it will hamper the appearance, as well as if you by chance if you are asthmatic, anyone who has breathing issues, so if they inhale, so they may show allergic symptoms. So it's better to wear a mask if it's a large mushroom farm, preferably for 1 or 2 bags, no issues. If it's a large mushroom farm, it's better you use a mask before you venture into the cropping room, especially oyster cropping. So I told you, see that you don't allow the reference point is from a bunch is the largest 2 or 3 caps what you find. So that's the reference point. So see that it doesn't you harvest before it starts curling upwards, and you should harvest the whole bunch with your hand. Hold at the base and twist. Give a slight twist left or right, just how you turn the lock. To open a lock, you turn the key. So similar clockwise or anti-clockwise twist is needed. So it will come off easily. There is no need to put your muscles to, put your whole body to the exercise for that. It will come off very easily. You can find some adhering paddy straw and substrate. You can remove it. Basal part you can remove with a blade. And you separate all um, after you harvest, you separate all the caps. The individual mushroom you separate, and then you can pack it in any permeable, preferably a polystyrene tray. That is a thermocol, what you colloquial term or local language they term it as thermocol. So any food grade polystyrene tray, it should be wrapped with a permeable film. So PVC film, permeable PVC film, preferably an anti-fog film. So anti-fog film doesn't allow deposition of moisture. So because mushrooms are very fast breathing, they breathe very fastly. So within short period of time, you can see deposition of moisture on the inner side of the surface. So if you don't use permeable membranes, it is very chances higher that there is a anaerobic, uh, trap of air. So it will give rise to bacterial. Uh, Due to anaerobic conditions, it will give rise to bacterial proliferation. So the bacteria will start consuming the mushroom, and it will give a foul odor once it reaches the consumer. So see that you use a permeable film. Otherwise, your regular brown paper bags are very well and good for for the mushroom. This one storage and all. Otherwise, it's better if you keep it open and just place it in the fridge covered with a piece of tissue paper. That's fine. That is also very good thing. So you should allow the mushrooms to breathe well once you harvest. So that's also a very important point. So this brings us to the end of the presentation. I have a 1 or 2 pictures to share. I will share it. Please. So this is the bag filling. So the paddy straw is 60 to 65% moist. So she is filling the in the polystyrene. I'm sorry, polypropylene bags. These are heat resistant bags. So after tying, she will place it in the autoclave. It will be autoclave for. So this is how paddy straw is dried. So if you are going for autoclave and sterilization, it is fine if you spread it on a thing. Okay. Madam, so, but if you are going for hot water pasteurization, I suggest you that you use raised nest platform for drying because um, it is bound to pick up contaminants because you have already pasteurized the paddy straw and then you are drying it. So it is good if you use a raised platform. But if you are using an autoclave, because after drying you are autoclaving the substrate, so there is no harm drying it directly on the ground. So in our farm we follow sterilization. That is the scientifically best method. So we go for autoclave sterilization itself. So, so this brings us to the end of the presentation. I hope many of you are. Uh, I hope I have attended some doubts or some. I have shared some valuable information which is of very good use um, to you all. So I hope it will increase your understanding of mushroom, uh, the background as well as the cultivation of mushroom. And I thank the college and ma'am for giving me this wonderful opportunity so to share some information which I have gathered, which I have over my due to my teachers and my due to my part of small experience. So I thank you ma'am for allowing for giving me this opportunity. I thank the college also, and good luck students for your future endeavors. Thank you ma'am.
Thank you, sir. That was really a complete package of cultivation of mushroom. Hope students will be able to implement in their career. Thank you, sir. I have some questions here from students. They are asking list of training centers in and around Bangalore. Do you have? Uh,
Yes, ma'am. I will leave you. Uh, can I give you a list of that later so that you can share it?
just to mention any two, that is
Uh,
enough, sir. Just they'll approach later.
so, so under Department of Horticulture, and we have an institute in uh, Banagata Road. That is where I work. I work there as a. I'm in charge of the lab, so I'm the trainee there also. So you can come there. We have a one day as well, one day training as well as 1 week training. So 1 week will be hands-on training. So whatever I have told you, you can so we will show you around our cropping rooms, incubation rooms, as I told you. So and you can do the inoculation all by yourself, and there will be even spawn production technology also. We will there is a 2 day course. First 2 days will be regarding spawn production. So spawn production is also very, because all the your students are biotechnology students, so they can go for production of spawn. Because if someone is providing good quality spawn, so they have a very good future. They go for spawn production. So spawn production course also we have, and moreover they are well versed in biotechnological aspects. They know the autoclave, laminar wave flow, the incubation, and also it will be very easy for them to start the business if they want. So we have 1 day as well as 1 week workshop. So there is one more institute in Nisargata, that is the Indian. It's a central government institute. It is run by a ma'am. She has 37 years of experience in mushroom cultivation. So it will be a very uh, fruitful if even the students, if they undergo training there too. So even they have a training schedule posted on their website. So so in Bangalore you can find government run institutes. There are two institutes. So our institute also has, ours is a flagship center. So there is a we have a training facility even in Shimoga and even Mysore. So even there, someone whose native place is closer to these two places, they can also undergo training in those centers. So these are who in Karnataka, the institutes are regarding mushroom training, all government institutes, because private are not well aware.
Okay.
And even the fees are pretty reasonable, ma'am. And there are some concession also there for students, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. I have one more question here.
Yes,
Is there
ma'am.
any mushrooms, especially for skin issues?
Skin in the sense, there's a, I told you earlier in our slides I mentioned regarding reishi mushroom. Reishi, that is the Ganoderma mushroom. So Ganoderma cultivation is not there in southern India because it is a pest of, I mean, it causes disease in coconuts and arecanas, palms, majority of palms. So southern India is dotted with many palms, coconuts and arecanas. So especially in Indonesia, Thailand, and those countries, China also. So Ganoderma is very rich. I mean, legacy since centuries. So there are products made out of extracted from Ganoderma mushroom. So Ganoderma lucidum is the species. So they extract some products. So it has been used for. Excuse me. It has been used. Those products has been used for psoriasis and all over a period of time. But this is similar to our. You can say it as alternative medicine because Chinese medicine also is an alternative medicine similar to our Ayurvedic systems. So Ganoderma is very commonly used.
Okay.
The extracts of Ganoderma mushroom.
Okay. I got one more question from students. How to differentiate poisonous and non-poisonous mushrooms?
So this was a this is a common question, ma'am, but that's a very valid question. So so poisonous and non-poisonous, it's very difficult one. You cannot. There are not many. Thumb rule is not there, as I mentioned earlier. It's better. There is a saying in English: if you don't know from where your mushrooms have come, please don't consume. So this is a saying in. So one of the famous mycologist has penned this saying. So if you are not aware of the species, if you don't have clarity about the species, so it's better to avoid consuming the mushroom. But whatever is available in the market, so all those are edible mushrooms. No? It's better to avoid it. So for example, if someone goes for a trip in the Western Ghats after the rains, so they are bound to come across mushroom during trekking in the wild. So it's better to leave them alone. Because they are part of ecology. It's better to leave them alone. So, or you can find someone selling them on the roads. If you're not clear about the species, better to just move on, just avoid the consumption. Otherwise, the common trend, what has happened is, for example, a common man, he will consume a mushroom, uh, someone will offer to him, and he will come back home saying, I ate mushrooms and my digestive system went haywire. So, so it will apply to all mushrooms. So similarly, so it's better to identify if you are not clear. So, but there are not many thumb rules. It's better to be well versed about that before you go ahead.
Thank you for your interaction and explanation for all the questions. I have some more questions keep coming from students, but I'll connect all those questions to your email. I'll
Yes,
share
ma'am.
your email ID to students so that they'll directly they can drop questions to you.
Yes, ma'am.
On
They
behalf
can
of Kali
question.
Societies, S. Nizlingappa College, I thank Dr. Varun Amingad for accepting our invitation, who shared his insights about nutritional quality of mushrooms and mushroom cultivation. Thank you, sir, for your cooperation. Thank you.
It has been my pleasure, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Finally, I extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to all the participants on behalf of Kali Management, Principal, Heads of various department, faculty, and also on my personal behalf. I, Dr. Pratibha KS, signing off for today. Stay tuned with me. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, protect yourself, and protect others. Thank you.